Good evening. Thank you all for coming. I hope you forgive me for disturbing you at this late hour. It is time to unmask the guilty party. I am your host, Anthony, and with me, as always, as I drag them through my favorite TV show, is the Watson to my Holmes, Wilson.
Now, listen, I'm not saying I stole everything, but there's a pawn shop 3 miles from my front door.
All right, I thought that was going somewhere, and it just kind of abruptly ended. Thank you, Wilson, very much. And the embodiment of Moriarty himself, Jasky.
I have a very active eBay profile right now. Not related to the podcast.
Not related to the podcast. Or any missing items that you may have.
They're not missing. I know where they are.
Yeah, you know where they are. They're not stolen. I have them right here. How dare you, sir? How are you gentlemen doing? It's been a hot minute.
It's actually kind of moist right now.
It is. So I am happy to report for the first time on this podcast, although California is still on fire, it is technically less on fire than when we last spoke.
That is true.
It has rained. It feels nice. My window is open for the first time in months. I am comfortable. So,
yes.
Have you guys gotten up to anything interesting or exciting since last we spoke?
I turned a lava lamp on.
Congratulations. I'm very happy for both of you.
It's lava lamp weather now. What do you want?
Yeah, I was about to say, in that little room of yours, that lava lamp acts like a space heater, I imagine.
I mean, that combined with the gigantic space heater that is my computer, and then the tiny mini fridge. Yeah.
Yeah. Wilson, how's Kansas?
So the Burlington Northern Santa Fe Railroad that runs through my area has a policy, probably an unspoken rule, but how it plays out is they do not put manpower into riding derailed cars, mostly hopper cars for all of the corn and grain. So my new favorite subgenre of photography has shifted from politicians entering the standard middle-class American home to posing on top of these derailed freight cars with a subtly menacing look in my eye, as if to imply that I had something to do with it.
I mean, you can't climb mountains in Kansas, so this is the next best thing, I guess.
I was about to say, those derailed rail cars are the highest terrain feature in most of Kansas.
Well, I'll tell you what. You may be right.
Yeah,
all right.
That's kind of what I figured. So I think it would be remiss. I think it would be remiss of us to not mention one or two things before we got into MASH, because for many different reasons, we are speaking since the last episode in a world that is very different today than it was 2
the
weeks
Queen's
ago.
dead.
Well, I wasn't going to lead with that. That's fairly obvious. I was going to lead with Slava Ukraini.
That too. Yes. Slava Ukraini.
For a podcast that is very clearly about a show that very much is going to lead us down the path of war is not great. If war must happen, I would much rather see the oppressed win than the conquerors. So Slava Ukraini, I'm glad. If it must happen, I'm glad that the side of arguable right is winning, as opposed to arguable tyranny. Yeah. And that is as far as I will go on that subject without it getting political or drawn out. So, yeah. And then, yes, the Queen passed. We're recording this on Monday of the funeral, so by the time y'all hear it, it'll be well beyond the days of mourning. And I only bring it up because I am amazed that we live in a time that has immediate high-definition video access to historic world events. That is mind-boggling to me that we live in this era, and it's very cool. But yeah, I watched the state funeral. I was genuinely moved at parts of it, and despite what people may think of the monarchy and all that nonsense, it's clearly there are many people upset and saddened by her passing. So it is good to see that they are able to mourn as a whole nation and people, and they will move on and the world will continue to turn. So, yeah. What do you guys think? Any thoughts on the Queen, or are you guys kind
I
of
will
queened out?
I will never not get over the fact that Charles, yes,
King
they all have
Charles.
like the same name. It feels like King Charles
Yeah, I get Charles and Philip confused all the time.
King Charles is unable to dress himself now.
Oh God. Yeah,
For those of
we've
you who
all
don't
seen the
know,
picture. Oh God.
the picture of King Charles with his suit buttons like uneven, where one half of the suit is hanging lower than the other half, I will never not find them.
Yeah,
The context is not good, but without
the context
it's
is not,
hilarious.
but it's hilarious. Yeah, and that's kind of been my thing through the whole thing. It's like I am not a subject of the crown. I have never lived abroad in any of the Commonwealth countries or the UK itself. I have no justification as an American citizen to like throw my opinion about the British government, the British royal family. Like I have opinions. I'm not going to use this podcast to like expound upon them, but at the end of the day, I am a sentimental person, and watching a family grieve for someone they clearly loved is a little heart-wrenching, despite what you may think of some of the members of that family. It is genuinely kind of like, damn, that is a very sad person right there, and I feel bad for them. So, but anyway, enough talk of the Queen. Long may she rest in peace. All right. So, on that note, I did want to talk before we got into the episode. We are recording this 2 days after the 50th anniversary of the premiere of the series. So, yeah, unfortunately, because we are a much newer podcast than some of the other MASH podcasts, and because our scheduling and timing and planning just have been all over the place, we didn't really do anything special for the 50th anniversary. We weren't really prepared to. I certainly wasn't. So I just kind of watched some episodes on my own, but there have been some very cool things that the MASH community has been doing, and I wanted to share a couple of them on here because they are things that y'all, the audience, and you guys, if you so choose, can go and partake in. And one of them was we talked the last episode that the MASH Matters podcast was going to go out and do kind of like that brunch out at the film site and kind of hang out with people. And I guess they interviewed some of the people there. They interviewed little like audio clips and that for one of their podcasts, kind of asking people what MASH means to them and stuff. And I can't wait to see that. They got on Twitter. They were out there. They had, obviously the signpost and all that, and everyone was all dressed up in like fatigues. They had Hawaiian shirts. It looked like a fun time. According to the Twitter video they put out a couple hours after the event, they were thanking everyone that came and saying to everyone who wasn't there, sorry. We gave out free Teslas to everyone. It was really cool. George Clooney stopped by. So yeah, I'm really bummed out that we missed that.
Man, we missed George Clooney.
We will have to get out, take a hike or a trip down there and hike out there just to see it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
An image that makes me immensely happy. Let me shoot it over to you two so you can see it. I'll put it up in the video for
editor insert here. Watching.
Yeah, editor insert here. For those of you who have seen the final few moments of the final episode of the series that is MASH, this picture will bring joy to your heart. An old Mike Farrell and an old Alan Alda got together for the 50th anniversary and commemorated it, which, if you know how the series ends, seeing old BJ and old Hawkeye together is very heartwarming.
I'll tell you what, you can still see BJ and Hawkeye in those smiles.
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
That makes my heart happy.
Another MASH podcast, MASHcast, who I've gotten far enough ahead in the series of his episodes to feel comfortable listening to it and not feel like I'm going to accidentally repeat things, because he's up into season 5 and I won't remember anything by the time we get there. Yeah. But he and a bunch of the regular guests for his podcast did table reads of 2 MASH episodes to commemorate the 50th anniversary. So they each picked a part like they would have done, the beginning of the week before they started filming. They do the table read and work out kinks. They did table reads of 2 pretty great MASH episodes, and it turned out great. So highly recommend go to MASHcast on wherever you get your podcasts and take a listen. It's very silly. It's very silly. That is actually
really cool.
There was one other way of celebrating that I wanted to pull up and share with the group. Specifically, with you, Jared. There is something I would like to get your thoughts and opinions on. And I gotta find where it is because I saved it somewhere. So people have been celebrating in many different ways.
Naturally.
I saw one where people set up a little like facsimile of the MASH camp in their front yard and did like a screening of the pilot on like a movie projector. Is very cool. And then other people are doing more modern types of celebration. Jared, you are a fan of building custom PCs and gaming computers and tech in general, yes?
That I am. That I am, Red. That I am.
What I would like you to give us your critique, and I'll, again, editor insert here photos. This is something that a bunch of the different MASH pages on Twitter were sharing around. Someone built a custom 50th anniversary MASH PC, and I would like your thoughts.
Okay.
Describe to the listeners what you are witnessing here.
So it appears we have your typical computer case, you know, your nice black rectangle, but it's one of the fancier new ones that has a rectangular side panel with a bunch of signatures on it. Kind of hard to make out what they are, but are those cast members? What signatures are those?
Those are cast members. I'm not going to be able to recognize all
Wayne
of them.
Rogers, I think, in the middle there. Yeah.
Yep, there's Wayne
cast
Rogers.
member signatures.
Alan Alda's right there in the middle. Next to him is Harry Morgan. If you go the other direction, next to him is Mike Farrell. All the way, if you go a couple names up, you'll see Bill Christopher. That's William Christopher, Father Mulcahy, Gene Reynolds. So yeah, a bunch of the different signatures on there. Yeah. It's a green case with yellow signatures, by the way. So they're very MASH adjacent, very MASH.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. They have a little LCD screen there.
They do have a little LCD screen in there, and I will have to see if I can pull the video from somewhere. When the computer is running, it goes through a slideshow of the different MASH cast members.
Aww.
So, yeah.
I do appreciate the attention to detail. They color matched the graphics card paint job with the fans, and the fans will have the same kind of militaristic ruggedness feel to them. Appreciate that. Your power cables are gold, and your water tubing for your AIO is like yellow, so that's a little weird, but close enough. Yeah. Bang up job overall. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10.
I saw that and I'm like, there's no way someone is nerdy as me for MASH and as nerdy for computers as Jared, and those two things came together, but they did. And it looks awesome.
Only thing that can make this even better is painting the rest of the case parts. But that would be a lot.
Like if it was all green. But yeah, that's
excellent job.
Very cool. So yeah, I had to share that.
Very well done.
So yeah, I did ask. I will jump to the audience a little early this episode because I did ask our audience, was there anything special they were doing to mark the 50th anniversary? Chief Smash Forever replied that he was going to watch a handful of his favorite episodes, including some that we haven't gotten to yet: Adam's Ribs, 5 O'Clock Charlie, a bunch of the Dear Blanks, so Dear Dad, Dear whoever, and a couple others. So yeah, that's how he was doing it. He also says, "Great job on the podcast." But yeah, we'll get to some. We have some interesting things about the audience that are going to come up when we get to the end of this episode, but I'll save it for then. But so yeah, 50th anniversary MASH. We got in a little late to the party, but we're here and we're coming up on halfway through the first season. So with that, let's get to this week's episode. Season 1, episode 10, I Hate a Mystery, directed by Averback, who we've seen before. He directed The Moose and Requiem for a Lightweight. 2 episodes that I think we liked fairly well. And then it was written by Hal Dresner. Air date was November 26th, 1972. And let's get it. First of all, and just kind of generally, any strong opinions one way or the other for this episode?
You mean like going into it or after the fact?
Yeah, going into it. Like what?
I mean, the title caught my attention because, you know, mystery. I'm like, okay, it's probably going to be another whodunit, but, you know, we'll see. And it was, but yeah.
But much more leaning a lot more heavily on the whodunit aspect.
Yes, very much so. Yes.
So yeah, we open we open on the poker game between Hawkeye, Trapper, and Spear Chucker, with Ho-John serving drinks and Frank reading his Bible or whatever he's doing back there.
Is it bad that I knew that the culprit was going to be Ho-John the second the camera panned to Ho-John?
Spoilers, the fuck, man.
That was something I was going to eventually ask, is when you guys figured out Ho-John was the one that did it. What
Immediately.
what makes you feel like, what made you realize it immediately? Is like, damn, is it because it weirdly held on Ho-John for a second, or did you just use
It's because
Scooby-Doo
Ho-John
logic?
came back. It's because Ho-John's here.
Why is Ho-John here? He must be.
Why is Ho-John here? He must be integral to the plot. Oh, he sure is.
Is it like Scooby-Doo logic? The first person you meet's always the bad guy.
Kind of. Yeah.
I just kind of ran down the list and went, okay, who's expendable enough that they can get caught with, the stealing and the thieving and the taking, and it not affect the rest of the show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, so Ho-John serving drinks, Frank's drinking, or not. Frank's not drinking. Frank's reading. Everyone else is drinking. Frank accuses Hawkeye of having no heart, which is hilarious. But
I guess it was more of a which of these cast members cannot be court-martialed.
Yeah, which of these cast members
was
can't be
very
court-martialed?
short.
Yeah.
I love Hawkeye in true Hawkeye fashion has made himself a nice little nest egg of $309.68 off of, Spear Chucker and Trapper.
Yeah, and which again, we're not gonna. I don't want to keep doing the inflation math because it's always ridiculous. But that's like $4,000 today.
I don't want to think about it.
Yeah. But I did notice that you can see in the establishing shots that Trapper is wearing the watch that he will lose, and Frank's picture frame is already missing. So nice attention to set dressing by the props department.
$309 in 1951 is worth $3,519 today. That's a down payment on a house. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway.
Shut up, please.
Yay, MASH! So Frank realizes, I love that Ho-John asks Frank, why did you become a doctor, Major Burns? And Hawkeye is immediately to meet girls. Which, I mean, for Hawkeye to say that is hilarious, but moving on.
Self-awareness much, eh?
And then Frank, self-awareness much. Frank says it was the wish of his dear mother who is the guiding force of his life, which... I love my mom, but something about the way Frank says that's a little creepy.
Frank's a mama's boy through and through. That's what this episode's all about. Ho-John's actually a side plot.
Yeah, we're gonna learn more about Frank in the future, but yeah. He obviously immediately realizes that his sterling silver frame around his mother is missing. Fair to be upset about that. I mean, one, it's sterling silver, and two, it's a picture of your mother that someone has touched, which is
touched
like
with
that
grubby little filthy phalanges.
So Frank goes off in a hissy fit to Margaret, who is not in a great state. She's doing her beautification for the evening, and yeah, she's looking a little rough.
Greasy. She's looking greasy.
Oily, yeah, not great. But Frank's comes in a tiff because the frame was stolen. I love how he's like, my mother's picture frame is missing. And Margaret's like, well, I didn't take it. What the hell? Like, what? Why are you here, Frank?
Why are you here, Frank?
But so we get to the part where I love that Margaret says, I'm going to brush my hair 100 strokes every night. And Frank's like, well, I might only stay for 50. But something I noticed and have noticed every time I watch this is it's kind of interesting to see what is stolen from each person and kind of how they react, like what is valuable to each person. And I don't think it says a lot about them, but I still think it's kind of interesting. Frank is worried about a very precious, like it's it's made out of precious metals. It's, it's more of a
monetary value
thing. Whereas Margaret, her brushes are stolen, and for her, it's not so much that the brushes are stolen; it's that the fact they were brushes that were gifted to her by her dad, which is interesting. Because they never really mention that the brushes are particularly valuable in and of themselves. It's Margaret that places the value on them. So that's an interesting little tidbit.
Yes.
We then move to Henry and Leslie. I believe it's Leslie. I'm pretty sure it's Leslie. Having a lovely little date night in Henry's tent. Henry presents her with the trout that she first caught, which...
What a wet-looking trout.
It's very... Go ahead.
Shiny.
I just like to take a moment and say, as someone who fishes occasionally, if you find a girl that's willing to fish with you, you need to keep her.
Well, hang on. We're getting there.
Could you say she's a catch?
I would say she's a real catch.
Please stop. Here's my question. In the middle of the Korean War, where are you getting a fish taxidermied?
Tokyo.
Radar.
You mailed a dead fish to Tokyo in the 1950s.
No, you hand it to Radar and he figures it out.
And he mailed it to Japan in the 1950s.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll buy it. I'll hold my suspension of disbelief for a little bit.
I will
do anything for Radar.
Enough about Japanese culture to say categorically that they do or do not taxidermy.
That's not the problem. You're sending a dead fish in a time without reliable mail refrigeration. That's what I'm concerned about.
Shoot, even now refrigeration in the mail's not great.
Guys, this entire unit is hooked on gambling. I think that this is the least of their worries.
True. Fair enough. So Henry also hints that there is another gift, and Leslie gets very excited. And then Henry describes a piece of fishing equipment in the most erotic way I have ever heard someone speak of fishing equipment. Because he purchased for Leslie a Sato Tanaka double cammed reel with jeweled escarpment. I don't know what
again.
No, I don't know what half those words mean. But I am concerned and confused with the way he said that. Moving right along from Henry's obsession with fishing, the fishing reel clearly is not there, and Henry is obviously concerned.
It's missing.
We continue this beat of seeing what everyone got stolen from him. Trapper's missing his alarm watch while he tries to make moves on a nurse. We see Hawkeye coming back from duty and asks Ho-Jon to mix him drinks, and he has this. I love his little conduction of the symphony of drinks. The saxophone splashes of melody. The plunking of cool harp strings. And then we learn that the Stizzle Swick has been stolen. Which
not the Swizzle Stick.
Which I know I said Margaret's brushes are important to her because of sentimentality, but they're still nice hairbrushes. The sterling silver frame, a very expensive sounding wristwatch and reel. What about the bar spoon or swizzle stick is of value? That's the thing. It's is Ho-Jon just stealing shit to anything at this point?
Maybe it's made out of silver. Who knows?
Yeah, that was my assumption.
Okay, fair enough.
He's really going after silver,
Hey, precious metals are where it's at.
Yeah.
They very rarely lose their value. So Henry, while everyone's at dinner, Henry tries to get their attention to give the thief a chance to return the stolen articles, and this whole scene to me screams morning meetings at camp. One person's trying to talk and everyone's just like, can we eat? Can we just eat, please? What?
If your thighs aren't touching, you're not close enough.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. So Henry's trying to get everyone's attention when I love the trope that Henry can't get anyone to pay attention to him, but all Radar has to do is like say a 10 hut and then everyone shuts up. It's great.
They know who has the power.
They know who's in charge. Henry makes his offer for the guilty party to return the things. He turns the lights off. I love the little gags we get of, you know, Father Mulcahy accidentally like bumping into a nurse and she thinks it's Hawkeye. Hawkeye accusing Frank of like pinching his butt or something. And Frank's like, you're just, which is hilarious because in the day shot, in like the lit up shot, Frank and Margaret are like across the room from Hawkeye, which is hilarious. But they cut back, turn the lights on, and apparently more stuff is missing, which is okay.
Including the spoon out of Henry's own hand. Yeah. My boy Ho-John is quick.
I don't even know that Ho-John genuinely stole anything in this. I think there was just confusion and chaos because Henry turned the lights off.
Potentially.
But so then we get the nice little montage of Henry and Radar going through and trying to find all the stolen articles. Radar almost walks out of the nurse's tent with a handful of delicates. And I love if you watch as he walks out, Henry grabs his collar, drags him back in. He gives the clothes to I don't know if is that Leslie? One of the nurses, whatever. And
one of the nurses,
he's kind of standing there awkwardly, and then the colonel grabs his collar again and just kind of drags him back out. It's great. Big dad energy from Henry right there.
Big dad energy.
Radar is reluctant to have his bed searched, and we learn that it is because he has with him a teddy bear. Which we are going to see a lot of this teddy bear through the series.
Well, it's missing an eye.
It's missing an eye. It's got a screwed up nose. Yeah, it is.
Oh, this is a cursed teddy bear. Heck yeah.
Oh no, it's not cursed. I believe Radar at one point says it belonged to a brother. I don't know if that is an older brother or a younger brother. I think we learn a little bit more about that at some point in passing, but we'll get there when we get there. Henry gets sprayed in the face in the shower, which I only bring up because I wonder if this scene is written. Well, how, but how is because the script says so. But the reason
Henry
I
has
wonder
anti-plot armor.
Yes. Well, the reason I'm curious is this just writing the joke in that he gets sprayed in the face for the sake of the joke, or is it to have an excuse to have his face damp for the soot later to stick to? Yeah. So I wonder if it was intentional in that way or intentional just in the it's a joke way. But either way, it works out.
It does.
So
yes, it does.
So we get to the swamp. Henry's wet. They're just relaxing. I love that he comes in, looks at them and says, "Eddie's men," and they haven't even like moved. Hawkeye.
Can't even tell they're alive.
Hawkeye. Yeah, he can barely tell. Yeah, exactly. He can barely tell they're alive. Henry starts looking around the tent. He asks Trapper what's in the chimney flume, and he's like, "Soot." And I love if you watch McLean Stevenson, you can tell that he's prepared for it to happen because he shakes. And I'm sure there's probably like a crew member up there with like a bucket or something, and you can see him jam his eyes shut right before the soot hits. Which, like, I don't care how good of an actor you are, I'm not letting you dump soot or sand or charcoal powder or whatever that is directly into my eyeballs. Like that.
Yeah.
It already looks uncomfortable as it is. I'm not Daniel Day-Lewis method acting that. Sorry. That just sounds so uncomfortable. But yeah, he gets a face full of soot, and I love Trapper and Hawkeye, or I'll say Alan Alda and Wayne Rogers. I don't know if they're laughing genuinely or if it's fake laughter, but it's great laughter. If it's fake, they're doing a great job at fake laughing. It's not because I've laughed that maniacally in the last 24 hours looking at freaking dumb houses on Discord with you. So yeah, I love Alan Alda's laugh, genuinely. And then we come to the realization that all of the stolen articles are in Hawkeye's footlocker, to which everyone is
Curious.
rightfully confused. And then we have the end of Act 1. So up to this point, how are you guys feeling? Like, once we got here, what were you guys thinking?
It's only a matter of time now, and my boy Hawkeye is going to be treated like a criminal. And he was.
And he was. Wilson,
I was going full detective for a second here. I was going, oh wait, that beer can that the thief used to prop up the picture of Frank's mother is the same kind of beer that Trapper was drinking. Could they be doing a sneaky on us? Could Trapper be the big bad thief man?
You're trying way too hard.
Yeah, that's way too much detail. That's way too detail.
I think I was trying harder than the writing staff, and that's not a slight. It's just a fault of my own.
Just a fact. It's just a fact.
So Henry has all the stolen articles in his office because now they're evidence. Hawkeye's yelling at him. It's like, it's ridiculous. Why would I do this? And rightfully, I think Henry has a fair point in being like, what's the joke? Like, this wouldn't be above Hawkeye to do as like a gag, but it seems to be, even for Hawkeye, a little bit out there, like too far. Like, stealing something of Frank's or messing with Trapper is one thing, but stealing a whole bunch of stuff from all around camp is like,
that's a little out of character. Yeah,
you're getting a little klepto there.
Yeah, that's pretty out of character for a Hawkeye.
And of course, Major Burns and Houlihan are hell bent on having him court-martialed, which, okay.
I mean, of course.
And
what else are they supposed to do?
Something I do hate in the early season, and just because, again, it is the early season and they're still kind of finding the exact, character beats for each character. I hate how in some episodes Henry is a bumbling leader, but when it gets down to brass tacks, he will stand up, like in a Chief Surgeon Who, where he and Frank have that great shouting match about, look, Hawkeye's better than you, and I'm making him in charge, so get over it. But then we get scenes like this where it's like, look, I'm not rushing to conclusions. I'm not going to put Hawkeye's head on the chopping block until we know the facts further. And then Margaret does, well, what if we call General Hammond? And then Henry just folds like a wet paper sack.
No, they literally say, like, we already called General Hammond and told him.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, I'll get my pen. Or even when they're like, maybe Hawkeye should be, followed and observed to make sure he doesn't steal more stuff. And Henry's like, that's stupid. We'll ask General Barker about it. And then he just folds again. Like that's something that bugs me about the first season is Henry is either really competent and just he's not suited for command, but he's confident when it gets to the point that he has to do something, or he's completely bumbling and incompetent and will do anything to save his own butt. Like, I wish they would just choose one or the other, but it bugs me in episodes like this where they just make him to be like the dumb, figurehead. It bugs me, but he gets enough better moments later that it kind of overrides it. But it's just grates on me a little bit in this episode. But and of course, who else to follow Hawkeye than the completely inconspicuous master of mystery himself, Radar.
The Bushmaster Radar.
Bushmaster Radar. I love how his way to observe Hawkeye isn't, from afar. It is walk into Hawkeye's tent, sit down, and stare at him.
I mean, to be fair, I believe he was instructed, watch him, and so he does.
Yeah, I mean, instructions unclear. Did exactly as asked. Yeah. I love Radar comes in, sits down, and they just kind of stare at each other for a second, and it's like, "Hey, Radar.
Hey,
what's up?
Radar.
Hi.
What you doing, bud?"
How Hawkeye feels in that exact moment is how I felt when people would knock on our door and just walk into our room in the lodge. Like, hey,
can I
help you? Yeah, do you need something from me? Because if you don't, you're about to get hurt. So yeah, Radar's just vibing there. Trapper comes in, wonders what Radar's doing, and Hawkeye's just like, I don't know. In surgery, he asks for a scalpel, and Margaret tells Radar to write down one scalpel. It's like, where is he going to hide it? Where is he going to hide the scalpel? And then Radar is like,
the patient. It's the perfect crime. You sew them back up. They walk out of there with it. You track them down
No.
later. You cut them back open. And there's your ill-gotten booty.
there you go. We then see Hawkeye talk to Father Mulcahy. Nice to see Father Mulcahy again. I think this might be the first time we get to see inside his tent.
I think so.
I do love that it is, as a man of the cloth wood, it's very simple. It has not a lot of, ornament, not a lot of personal flair, because he is, I'm assuming as a priest, he is meant to live more modestly, or he intends to live more modestly. And so he does. I do dig his, little lock-up army desk. I do dig that. Like the little, you can just fold it into a little box and carry it out with you. I do kind of love that. It's like a patrol box, but for a priest.
That's exactly what I was getting flashbacks to.
Yeah. My troop had at one point the old, you could carry it on 2x4s, like the Ark of the Covenant, it goes through the little holes and you carry it like a stretcher. And then it's got the little pockets on it. You put the 2x4s in his legs. And then it all opens up and you put your camp stove on. It's got all your spices and crap. I miss those.
I'm 90% certain Jasky and ours troops still uses those to this day.
Pretty sure.
My parents bought one off a guy, like a camp cook box that he built in the 70s. It looks just like that. Anyway, now I just want to go camping. But
camping.
I love that Father Mulcahy is trying to offer solace to Hawkeye and try to, assuage him of the fact that he's doing with a priestly thing. He's saying, look, I know you're a man, you're prone to temptations. Fear not that you will be judged, the whole priest bit. But in order to do that, Hawkeye very clearly points out, so you think I did it. It's I appreciate
so you think
what
I'm
you're
guilty,
doing.
yeah?
I also love the gag that the chair keeps folding up on him. That's dumb, and I love it. And then Father Mulcahy says, it's all in here, the dictionary. And Hawkeye's like, oh, someone stole his Bible. Yikes, I need to get out of here.
Time to go.
Who steals a Bible? How is that worth any monetary?
Isn't there some statistic where it's the Bible's the most frequently stolen book on the planet or something like that?
I mean, probably because it's in every hotel room almost. So, yeah.
Okay, stealing a hotel Bible is not the same as stealing. I will not elaborate any further on that. I will say that
interesting.
What about those little psalm books that people hand out for free in front of grocery stores?
A Bible on your car's dashboard will get you out of a speeding ticket.
In Kansas.
I was in Utah.
What? Book of Mormon, maybe.
Depends.
Anyway, so we come to find out that even the nurses are turning down Hawkeye because they think he's a thief, and then Hawkeye's tired of this, so he sets up a little bluff and guile to trick the person stealing into exposing themselves. He has this staged conversation with Henry where they very clearly announce to the camp that the stolen articles will be investigated by some chemicals, and they'll be able to tell who was the person that stole them, thus prompting the thiever to re-thieve their thieveness. Or as Hawkeye so eloquently puts it later, to retrieve their ill-gotten booty, or their ill-bootengati.
Ill-bootengati.
I wish there was an excuse for me to use the line ill-bootengati more in life. But in order for that to happen, you need to have the ability to say the words ill-gotten booty first.
I'll just start stealing again.
Which, ironically enough, I am now reminded that today is September the 19th.
It is.
It is International Talk Like a Pirate Day. So if there ever was a time to say ill-gotten booty, it would be today.
How fun.
I talk like a pirate every day. I frequently pirate movies.
Okay. So Hawkeye arranges for, this little shenanigan to take place, and we see someone break into Henry's office, and it turns out it's Hawkeye, realizing that, in fact, the stolen articles have been, well, stolen again. And then Hawkeye calls a laundry list of people into the mess tent. Ho-Jon is not among the people he calls, yet Ho-Jon shows up anyway. Strange.
Yep. Strange. Interesting.
They all show up wearing their finest frockery. I still think an argument could be made that Frank Burns has a fabulous bathrobe. I like the pattern on his bathrobe.
It is a good one. It is a good one.
But check out the silk stash he has on that sucker.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm. So Hawkeye, being as extra as possible, storms into the tent with a lit cigarette, which Hawkeye, I don't think, ever smokes, save for this moment. My man is so dedicated to the bit that he is smoking as a non-smoker. Like, my goodness. So he comes in being as film noir detective-y as possible. I love that Frank's like, what's going on? That is one of my favorite lines in this, is him just screaming, "Contain yourself, Dr. Burns!" But, so he goes through and kind of comes up, he does the cliche, like, mystery movie, like, I've gathered you all here, and each one of you has a motive to the crime, but only one of you is guilty. And he reads through that, like, Frank is, sniveling and conniving, and Margaret is his, like, partner in crime. Radar's short and can go around unnoticed. Spear Chucker's jealous of him, because of his poker winnings, and Trapper's jealous of his womanizing. One of my other favorites is he tells the nurse, Lieutenant, which one is it? I don't know. There's like 500 different nurses.
Nurse number 3.
Nurse number 706. Lieutenant something. It's not Scorch, it's one of them. But I love how he's like, I share my affections among the ladies, and she starts to protest, and he just does the and walks away. I love that little anyway. But he reveals that the culprit is about to be exposed because he puts hydrochloric alpha terracin, which
is an antidepressant. I looked it up because I was curious. It's an antidepressant developed in 1960, and I could find no sign of it turning any skin blue.
Okay. That has to be something where some writer was just going through a medical textbook or something and saw this ridiculous...
Saw those words.
Yeah. Hydrochloric alpha terracin sounds ridiculous. We're using that. And it is at this moment turning the culprit's fingernails blue. And we get this wide shot of everyone. Everyone looks at their hands, but very obviously, Ho-Jon hides his. Which I think, despite what you think of the plot, that is a nice little like visual cue to the audience before it's revealed that, like, oh. And I do like Alan Alda's reaction as Hawkeye, where it's clear to Hawkeye that this is someone framing him as a joke. It's, it's either Trapper playing a joke, or, Frank and Margaret being Frank and Margaret, or Spear Chucker doing something. This seems like maybe it's just something the guys are doing to screw with him. Mm-hmm. But then there's like genuine sad, like, disappointment and confusion on Alan Alda's face when he realizes it's Ho-Jon.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, this kid has been stealing. Oh no, my surrogate Korean child has gone astray.
My son. Oh.
My wee lad.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out Hawkeye exposes that it was a bluff, and everyone's like, why'd you do it? And Ho-Jon needed to bribe the border guards so that he could get his family from the north down to the south, which is noble enough. But he has this line, and this is like probably the most poignant and serious part of the episode, where he's like, I didn't think you would miss your bits and pieces. You're also rich, which, yeah. Even today, it's like it's one of those things that this is one of the lines, and there's another one later in this season. It's one line that Hawkeye has in the later season, but this line from Ho-Jon reminds me that, like, yeah, if you have electricity and running water, you are better off than a good chunk of people on this planet, and maybe take a moment and collect yourself from whatever you think you're like, oh, my internet's slow today. It's like, yeah, but you don't have to worry about getting gonorrhea from your drinking water. Like, oh, dang, I can't afford to get DoorDash for the 8th time this week. It's like, yeah, but you have food. Like, maybe stop and think, literally check your privilege a little bit.
Check your privilege.
And it's even for these guys who are in a war zone and have very little creature comforts, they are still massively better off than a chunk of the Korean population that they are surrounded by. So that's a nice poignant moment. But then it's followed up by, why would you just not ask us for help? And he says, oh, I didn't think you'd give me bribe money. Bribery is dishonest. And yet, stealing isn't? Like, what? Oh, John.
Well, I think it was more that he didn't think that they would do something so dishonest or be willing to partake in something so dishonest.
So he was, okay, I see. Like, he was willing to do the dishonest thing of stealing as opposed to roping them in unwilling. Okay. Yeah. Yes. I see that. I see that.
He felt like he had no other choice.
But upon hearing that the reasoning for Ho-John's hoarding of valuables, everyone in the tent, not verbally, but it seems willingly on his part, even Burns, like, relents, which is weird. Like, he doesn't say he can have the frame, but he doesn't not say he can have the frame.
He's not visibly upset or angry.
Yeah, and I think that is and Margaret very clearly says you can keep the brushes, which, as we'll see going further through the series, there are things about Margaret, even in this early season, that, she's kind of terrible and tied to the hip to Frank, but there are little things that we'll see through this season and next season that are very clearly Margaret may be on Frank's side at the moment, but there are character traits that will be exposed. And I think this is one of them where she's like, look, this kid's having a tough time. He can have the brushes. I can get other brushes. It's not the end of the world. And same with the reel from Henry. And I think this is an artifact of the early series where Frank is not stamping his feet, whining, saying he wants his mother's frame back. Because we've seen one or two moments where, like in Henry, Please Come Home, as soon as Henry's like, we're cutting radar open, even Frank's like, dude, whoa, time, pause.
Hold on there.
Whoa. Even Frank is like, whoa, we need to like double check this, Henry. And Frank has had one or two moments of like clarity, but those will very rapidly disappear. Don't worry.
Great. Wonderful news.
So they all tell Ho-John that, you can keep the things, and he's like, oh, no, I can't do that. It's like, bro, you've already stolen. Like,
like it's fine. It's
and
fine.
He's like, no, I can't take your things. And Hawkeye's like, you did before. And after literal milliseconds of thought, Ho-John's like, okay,
all right, yeah, really had to twist his arm there, yeah.
And that would have been a weird enough ending, but then we get like the jokey ending of Ho-John listing off like the 85 extended family members that he has to get across the border. And I'm like, okay, that's a way you could end it. Where they all just kind of throw up their hands like, there's, he's got too many relatives, da-da-da-da-da. It kind of makes...
the 3.5.
Yeah, had to justify the $3,500 in today's money Ho-John was gathering. But it kind of echoes to me the same way the brother from the Moose, Benny. It's like, yeah, it's a funny way to kind of wrap up that storyline, having him be like this like Burt Reynolds cigarette smoking 10-year-old. But it would have had a little bit more impact if it was done a little differently, like if he were a little older. Kind of the same here. It's like you ended it on a joke, which is funny, but it's like this kid is still trying to get his family from, through across the front lines during a war. Like, that's kind of serious, but
that's kind of a big deal, Yeah.
So yeah. And then we get the little outro button scene where Frank and Margaret are listening with rapt attention to Father Mulcahy as he tells the story of the missing apostles. And I love that He discovered that 3 of his apostles were missing, and they all turn and look at Hawkeye. I do like that. That's a fun way to end the episode. I didn't steal them. So yeah, I hate a mystery. I kind of went on my long plot synopsis there, but did you guys have anything particular that stuck out this episode? I know, Ethan, you've hinted that you have many things to say, so I'm interested to hear what you guys think of this one. As is our audience. Many of them were interested to see how you two would react to this episode.
I would like to give the floor to Jasky.
Oh boy.
Oh, well then. Yeah, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was pretty good. Just for like a casual watch through. I'm sure if I went back and like, movie critic watched it, I would find a lot more, wrong with it, but I liked it. It felt like a fun little mash episode, not super serious, just like, it's a whodunit. Oh boy. But
Oh boy.
yeah, no, it was good. Fun to see Ho-John again.
Frank was Patrick Adiardi is always fun.
Frank was tolerable.
Shocking.
I know. I was shocked as well. I was very surprised.
So Wilson, seems like you've been keeping it bottled up. Let it all out. What do you feel?
Okay, and I know that we've talked about this just a tiny bit, and I would like to hear your counterpoints. And I will say, fun episode, casual episode. A lot of good laughs. I think Hawkeye as Sherlock Holmes was hilarious. This is my first dedicated watch through of the series, so fresh in my mind, despite it being several weeks back, is the pilot episode when these guys raised $2,000 to send this little shit to college in America. And now, good reason or not, he is stealing poker winnings, Stizzle Swicks, frames, and hairbrushes, any piece of jewelry or silver he can get his hands on, like he's a crackhead in his mother's jewelry box. It hurts me. Maybe because I'm so poor. Maybe because I think, wow, that's a shitty thing to do to people that really stuck their necks out for you. Good episode, but damn it, that rubbed me the wrong way. I get that it's a plot point, what character can you kind of let do this? But come on.
Fair enough. My counterpoint would be season 1 and continuity don't exist together. As far as we know, the events of the pilot never happened. They are just the pilot. They are a self-contained. There is no consistent through line in the story-wise in the first season.
And that's a very good point. I think that there's a lot to be said and unpacked in that point. My counter is that monkey pattern seeing brain does not gel like that. I understand what you're saying. Its words are permeating my thin membrane, but I can't put it together like that.
And to be fair, despite you can argue like these stories don't necessarily all link up, it's not an anthology, they don't happen in any particular order, they still would send Ho-John to college with their money if they could. Like that idea from the pilot still stands. Like it may not have happened because Ho-John's obviously still, there, but the fact that they would send him to college on their own dime is established in the series. So yeah, it is kind of crappy for Ho-John to steal from people that would do that for him. But again, script says it is so because episode idea. So
yes,
yeah. So yeah, with our thoughts and feelings out there, and I'll give mine here in a second, but what would you rate this episode?
Solid 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was just, not amazing. Wasn't my favorite, but it was good. I was entertained.
Okay. Wilson, how about you?
I'm gonna. I like Jasky's thoughts here. I think I'm going to go with a 3.5 out of 5. It was entertaining. You know, plot-wise, I have some notes, clearly, but at the end of the day, I can sit back and watch it and have a chuckle or two.
All right. I'm going to give this... I'll give it a 2.8. Just because it is a good episode. It's fun, it's goofy, but it's not a scheme a week episode, but it is kind of a run of the mill sitcom plot. I don't know. It's hard to explain. And again, that rating is very biased on the fact of I know what is to come and I know where the season goes from here. So it is kind of a weight. All my ratings are kind of weighted, which is fair because you got yours guys's aren't. Plus we have the audience input. But for me, it's not a bad episode. It's fun, it's goofy, but yeah, it's just kind of an episode that's there. But unlike an episode like Bananas, Crackers, and Nuts, it's an episode that I don't mind watching. Whereas Bananas, Crackers, and Nuts just...
I don't mind. This feels very easy to watch.
Yeah. So yeah, our ratings are all over the place, which is fair because the audiences are also all over the place.
Oh, good.
So yeah. So Chief Smash Forever is in Jared's camp. 4 out of 5. Gotta love a MASH whodunit. It was a good episode with a fun, different angle that other season 1 episodes had not gone to. Watching Hawkeye try to figure it out and characters reacting to their items being stolen was fun. Good ending. Good ending for a short-lived character. Is this the last time we see Hojon? Is that what? I didn't see that in the show notes. I don't think this is the last time we see Hojon. I hope not. Huh. I hope not. Maybe it is. I don't remember. He does mention, and I won't give it away now, we do get a different style of whodunit episode later in the series, which is fun, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. It's called The Light That Failed. Donut Eater 111 is more on my end, 2.5. I didn't connect this episode's mystery theme as much, and I feel like my enjoyment has weakened over multiple rewatches. Still, it's a solid homage for what it is, and had some classic moments. I particularly liked Hawkeye's search and radar following Hawkeye.
Yes, there were some excellent bits in there. Yeah.
Yes, and I will say Hawkeye's detective persona is an homage to several different detectives. There's some Holmes in there. There's I think Trapper references a movie and a book called The Thin Man. Very much a lot of noir and radio drama inspiration in Hawkeye's portrayal of a detective. Big Beard Booty... Oh, sorry, it's Big Brad Booty Daddy, not Big Beard Booty Daddy. My bad. Or maybe it was and he changed it. Either way, Booty Daddy. 3.5 out of 5. I find this to be a very funny episode with a bit of a plot hole. Hawk is busy chasing nurses, doing surgery, or getting drunk with Trapper, but everyone thinks he can find time to steal items, including his own swizzle stick. It's a fun standalone episode anyway. It's like, yeah, fair enough. Chad Smith gives it 2.5 out of 5 Stizzle Swix. Great physical humor from Henry, but it is kind of an idiot plot that depends on Hojon not trusting Pearson Trapper to help him out. Exactly. That's kind of what you were saying, Wilson. It's like you trust these guys to send you to college, but you can't trust them to say, hey, my family is stuck in the North. Can you help me get them down here?
I like that term, idiot plot. That's a really good way to summarize it.
And it's not an idiot plot. It is a plot for it. It's a simple plot. It's not. Yeah. It's not a negative terminology. It's just a terminology. I love this comment we got from Annie Kotevit. Started listening to Best Care 477 podcast. That's our Twitter handle, Best Care Anywhere, with my MASH rewatch, which is interesting because I think I'm about the same age as these guys' moms. So happy to see people discovering the show, probably the best TV show of all time. I will do some rating and commenting when I'm slightly more conscious and somewhat more coherent, assuming that's ever. Annie, I feel that energy. Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Try not to cringe too hard at our millennialness. For that, we apologize.
Yes. I don't know what I am. I might.
So I would like to mention before I read more of the commenters' comments. like I said, I've been re-listening to or listening for the first time through the other some of the other MASH podcasts, including MASHcast, and he brings guests on from all over the place. He brings them from people who request to be on the show from Twitter, all this stuff. And there have been a couple guests I've really gravitated to, including a gentleman by the name of Mike Jameson. The couple episodes I've heard him on, he speaks very eloquently about some episodes. And I'm like, man, I really like the things this person has to say about MASH. And I think on like the second or third episode this person guests on, they talk through the episode. They get to the end of the episode, they're doing the outro, and the host of MASHcast says, why don't you let people know where they can find you? Because you have one of the best Twitter handles I have ever heard.
Ooh.
And it was at that moment I realized this lightsaber kills fascists. Is that very same person? So this lightsaber kills fascists. Your cheeky offer to be on the podcast has just gone up on my list of things to eventually do, because I very much enjoy your comments on MASHcast. So I might have to requisition you, get a transfer over here, steal you. I'm going to steal you from MASHcast because I really do like...
John, easy.
Yeah, you can. Okay. I really do like some of the comments you have had on MASHcast. So we're definitely going to have to sneak you in here at some point. But on that note, This lightsaber kills fascists says that this is the closest the show came to hijinks at the front. They were supposedly,
yes,
which is the format they were supposedly trying to avoid. I don't know if I mentioned this, but one of the things Alan Alda said about coming on the show is he absolutely did not want it to become, and I quote, Abbott and Costello go to war. He did not want it to be Hogan's Heroes-esque. He did not want it to be silly. And this is one of those episodes that starts to lean a little too close to being silly. Like, we get one surgery scene and it's just there to highlight Hawkeye being followed by radar. So, yeah. Not a favorite of his. Eminently skippable, he says. 2 out of 5 stars. A Gomer Pyle episode masquerading as MASH. Damn. Tell us how you really feel. Yeah. He had many opinions on that, but I don't think he's wrong. And this is why I mentioned, I think last episode, why I wanted the audience input, because this episode has garnered everything from a 4 to a 2, which is hilarious to me that a bunch of people can watch the same episode and feel so wildly different about it. But yeah. So yeah, that is the episode. Any other last thoughts you guys want to throw out there?
No, I think we got them all. May I include a thought as we close?
A thought as we close, yes, please.
Listen, it's clear now who the culprit was, and that's fine and good, but I would like our listeners and you two to know that just because I didn't steal the Stizzle Swix this time, and I didn't take the frame around Frank's mother, does not mean that I am not a threat. Gas is expensive and my morals are slipping. If you have sterling silver, I will find it, and I will sell it.
All right. I feel literally not threatened because I am 1,000 miles from you. Anyway.
You think I'm at my house.
I know you're at your house because I'm watching you. The next episode we're going to be talking about is germ warfare. We might try to wrangle a guest for that. I don't know. We'll see. But until then, we will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
The time has come for us to say sayonara. My heart will always be yours for eternity.